I met Elis Sinistö the first time in the early 1960s. My family had a summer house in a small village 30 kilometers west of Helsinki, and there I used to wander around with the other kids. The area where Elis Sinistö lived was on the furthest edge of the village, but curious as we were, we found it one day. Our parents had told us it was a place not to go to, but they never had told us why. Children, of course, can draw instinctive conclusions of any situation, and therefore we knew that there was something in Sinistö that most adults felt threatening. This made the case even more exciting for us. Once we had entered the area, there was nothing that could keep us away. Numerous bright-colored cottages, at least 10 different size swings, and many other constructions kept us busy from day to day. But if Elis Sinistö came out of the funny-looking main cottage, we all fled behind a tree. We were too scared ever to talk with him. Almost 20 years later, I moved away from Helsinki and settled down in a village not too far from Elis Sinistö. I had not visited his place since my childhood. I did not even remember he was existing. But then I happened to read a story about him in a local newspaper. I started to think about my memories from the 1960s and decided to visit the place again. What I saw was astonishing, and it was immediately clear that this was to be a project for me to work on. Elis Sinistö grew up in northern Finland. His parents had big economical problems during the Depression in the 1930s, and the family constantly had to move. In 1937, Sinistö got fed up with all the quarrels and left on his own. The years between 1937 and 54 were hard times for Sinistö. He had occasional jobs in different towns in northern Finland and later in southern Finland. He took part in the Finnish Winter War in 1939 and in the Second World War between 1941 and 44. But he refused to carry a gun, and this got him into great trouble. In 1943 he was thrown into jail for a while, and after this he was kept in a mental hospital. All this because of a tragicomical incident that took place at the Finnish-Russian frontier. Sinistö: "They gave me no vegetarian food at the front. I had to starve for weeks. Then I made an agreement with the soldiers. I told them that if they give the vegetables they get from their homes, I will give them fresh fish in exchange. There was a large lake nearby, but nobody was allowed to go there because the Russians were on the opposite shore. I took a small boat. I even had my French dictionaries with me. I love the French language, and I thought I could study while fishing. Suddenly a motorboat was approaching, and they were shooting at me. I was taken to the headquarters and questioned for days. They thought I was a Russian spy and communist. After the war, in the late 1940s, Sinistö settled down in Helsinki. He took courses in playing musical instruments and in classical ballet, and made his living by working wherever he could get a job. His constant problem was how to find a permanent place to stay. In the early 1950s, he was so fed up moving around that he decided to buy a piece of land. In 1954, he went to a real estate agent that sold lots situated outside Helsinki. As he did not have the money requested, he had to work 2 years for the agent in order to be able to purchase a lot. During nighttime, he built his own cottages, often being so tired that he fell asleep under the stars. Sinistö: "I first built the sun sauna. It is a cottage where 2 walls can be completely opened. Like this, you can bathe in the sun. The next cottage was the smoke sauna, a traditional Finnish one. After that came the hermit cottage, and then the mountain cottage, which took me 3 years to complete. Later I built many, many more. Hotel Elite for children, the laboratory, and finally the car cottages. The lot is called Villa Juice because it is a dry place that deserves a wet name, and because I like blue, red, and yellow juice. Sinister. I respect the Holy Trinity, Realism, Romanticism, and Mysticism. On my lot, they have all come true. By realism, I mean practical advantage. By romanticism, I mean feeling and imagination, colorfulness, depth, and mood. Mysticism means that you reduce your ego and you will understand the eternal truths. Mysticism can be seen in my cottages by the way they were built. I did not plan the unities, they were put together by insight. Most of my cottages are made for guests, especially for children. I wish that people feel happy here and that people leave this place feeling happier than before coming here. Elis Sinistö believes that he has lived several lives. He has been on earth as a tramp, as a shepherd, twice as a writer and as an architect. As an architect he planned the town hall of Paris, and that explains why he in his present life has felt such a sympathy for France. He has made several trips to France and of course visited the town hall of Paris. During the last 10 years, Sinistö has been working as a model in most Helsinki art schools. Sinistö. I applied for modeling jobs because I wanted to prove to myself that it is possible to make two similar pictures of me. So far, nobody has been able to do it. I am mysterious for myself. I constantly change and become another person. Photographing Elis Sinistö changed me a lot as an artist. All of my previous projects had been based on random meetings with the people I photographed. Now I was to meet a very special kind of person from day to day, from year to year. I quite soon discovered that my fixed ideas, which rooted from traditional thinking in photography, were mostly a restriction for my project. In spite of my doubts, I worked traditionally during the first years, 1985 to 1986, of my project. My first Sinister exhibition, called The Magician, 1986, looked a lot like a typical photojournalistic story. While Sinister did whatever he did, my role was to creep after him and take pictures. This to me was how the supposed truth of Sinister could be transmitted. Little by little I realized that fiction, symbolism and conceptualism are part of Sinister's everyday life and activities. It is possible to live in his cottages, but they can be seen as sculptures as well. When Sinister does his morning gymnastics, it resembles a ritual performance where even the clothing is carefully chosen depending on how he feels. In 1988, when I decided to go on with my project, it was to take a new form. I was not any longer interested in authentic moments. Instead, I began to stage scenes that had an authentic background or were purely fictional. I was not any longer interested in the exotic outlook of Sinister's life and constructions. I instead began to interpret them and even started using constructions of my own. The new pictures dealt more with general human aspects, and Sinister appeared more as a model. I never in advance decided how Sinister as a model should act. I made up the scenery without his presence, and when he came on the stage, he improvised his role depending on the feelings he got from what I had constructed. We often made dozens of versions from one basic idea before something interesting started to happen. In 1989, I displayed my second Sinister exhibition, called The Mysterious Earth. I have still continued working with Elis Sinistö. I have not produced many new pictures, but after so many years' work, every new step has meant a lot. This book is dedicated to the life work of Elis Sinistö.